This is my New Holland TC33D tractor. A little on the small side for serious forestry work, but I'm not trying to make a living at this, so it works fine for my needs. It's 33 horse diesel tractor, bought new in 2001 with a Woods 1012 loader. I like that loader better than what New Holland was offering as stock at the time. Although their next generation loaders, I think, had a lot of improvements. I probably would have stuck with the New Holland if I were buying when those were available. It's a Sundown, I think it's a GR40 forestry grapple on the front. That's almost all the way open. That's come in really handy, shuffling logs around on the landing and a little more maneuverable in the woods with that on than with the bucket. Several years ago, I had the limb risers. They're the diagonal bars you see coming from the front of the tractor up above, and put a little falling object protection on the top so that if limbs and things break off while I'm driving around, they don't drop on me. Also have a belly pan underneath, which I won't show you right now. OFA Echo 8 forestry chains that are studded. Probably don't need them with the traction today, but they do come in handy sometimes, especially in the winter. On the back is a Uniforest 35E logging winch. It's a nice match for this size tractor. It's about the same as a Farmy 351. 230 feet of cable or 7,700 pounds of pull. Really comes in handy pulling logs out of the forest. We're gonna yank a few logs out. First, I gotta release the brake so I can pull the cable out and walk that out to the trees we're gonna be winching. I'll spare you the walk, not very long to get to the tops of them. So the end of my winch cable has this little keyhole on the end with a pivot. A lot of winches come with a grab hook on the end. I like this better because once you get the chain in that keyhole, it does not fall out. And occasionally over rough ground, I was popping it out of the grab hook on my original cable. Behind that, we have 3 sliders. These just slide up and down the cable, have another keyhole to hook a chain through. So those chains, normally what I use is a choker. This is one of my lighter duty ones. It has a nice hook, a slip hook with a narrow gap. Once you get the chain inside, it stays in and doesn't fall out as easily as just an ordinary slip hook. And I doubt I can hook this up one-handed while I'm holding the camera, so I'm going to stop and hook it up. So what I've done, I'm one short, I just figure eighted the chain from my first choker around these 2. Hopefully it won't pop off, and that'll let me run all 4 of these logs at once. You can see I just fed my chain through the big hole, dropped it down into the keyhole slot to lock into place. Okay, so there's my first 2 logs tied in with 1 choker. Hopefully it stays on both of them. I've pulled my cable out. The next 2 logs I've already hooked up. Black birch on my little swivel with the keyhole at the end of the cable, and the white birch on one of the sliders. So these were originally just 2 small trees. Ordinarily I would have left them whole and pulled them out on 2 big long logs, but I've got a hairpin turn to make once I've hooked up to the tractor. And that's going to be easier to do with 4 short logs than 2 long ones. So the idea here is when I start pulling with the winch, it's going to tighten up and pull the end of the cable first, pull it into the slider on the white birch. Both of those will start dragging up. And when they get to this next choker and the slider on that one, it will start pulling that along too. One thing I'm going to do, because I am on a pretty good side hill here, it's kind of hard to see here, but they do want to roll down that side hill. So I put my snatch block back up on this tree. How that snatch block works is I flip this little catch out of the way. I'm not used to doing this one-handed. Drop the cable in. Flip that back in. When the sliders come up here on the end of that winch line, they will trip this, pop it open, and pop the cable out of the pulley so that I don't have to come back and unhook. I can just keep right on pulling. So that's going to pull these guys up the side hill a bit, hold them from falling down until they trip this here. The next ones are already past most of the obstacles I'm worried about, so they're on the other side of that self-releasing snatch block. And eventually all four will gather right here and it'll just pull them right up to the back of the tractor, hopefully not hanging up on any of the little stumps I have in the trail. Okay, we should be ready to go. I've got the control rope in my hand to activate the winch. The PTO on the tractor is turned on. We'll start pulling. Hopefully you can see what's going on. Cable's tight. There's the back two moving. Pulling everything up to that release block. They roll downhill after the block is released. See if we can pull them right up to the back of the tractor. There we go. So now I've unhooked it from the cable and hooked the ends of the chokers in the little slots on the back of the winch. A little better for pulling that way rather than yanking everything around on the cable and possibly turning the cable into a bird's nest on the drum by pulling it down in between the wraps there. Okay, so I've dragged those 4 logs back up to the top of the hill. I've unhooked them from the rear of the tractor and taken the chokers off. So I'm just going to pick these 4 up with the grapple and throw them on that small pile of other logs we have there waiting to be turned into firewood. Somebody asked me, you may have noticed some of these logs, that's basically a chainsaw kerf down the length of them. On the white birch there too. Why do you do that? Well, birch, especially white birch, the bark holds the moisture in so well that often the logs will rot if you don't get right to cutting and splitting them to open them up and let the moisture out. Since I wasn't sure when I'm going to get around to cutting this up, I do that cut and that lets the bark start peeling off and let a little moisture out.